What's up everybody, my name is GameOva, and this video is just me talking about, as you can tell from the title, a new D&D series that I'm going to be starting. I've been watching a lot of D&D series, the Death and Debuts, obviously. I literally have not missed a single episode. Um, flipping, oh god, Matthew Mercer. I don't know why his name eluded me there, but I watched a lot of Matthew Mercer's and Critical Role's whole entire D&D thing. And while I've never been a player myself, and I find the rules incredibly difficult, I want to try doing what they do. It wasn't really my idea. My D&D group um, said that I should record us playing because it's absolutely hilarious. Um, and it has been. So far, we've had people jumping off of buildings and all that. It's absolutely amazing. Basically, I invented a whole entire new world, and I came up with rules for this world. I kind of homebrew a little bit in order to create what I've made, and we are right now in the middle of an adventure. What they want me to do is they want me to record and upload our adventure. This video is me telling basically what's happened already, so then when people go into the story, they can get caught up and I can just continue on and I don't have to explain anything. I don't want to make an hour-long video, even though that the video is going to be an hour long, because I can't make short videos. So first of all, the land that we're in is the land of Algaroth. It's not the kingdom of Algaroth, even though my brain constantly keeps wanting to go to that. It's called the land of Algaroth, and the land of Algaroth has a lot of kingdoms, which some of them I'm still coming up with, because this is just something I'm coming up with on the fly. But so far, we got Arius, the Kingdom of Freedom. We got Teleth, no, not Teleth. Terith, the Kingdom of Justice. We have the Kingdom of Fire, which I have not. I'm not going to tell you the name yet because they have not explored there yet. And then we have Waterloo, the Kingdom of Water. Basically, how the story went is that the adventurers, there is Nimble, a That's the thing. I don't really know what Nimble is. I've kind of just been going along with it, but I don't exactly know what Nimble is. Just know that he's not human. He's not human. But basically, he was born. We got Nimble, a person who was born in the land of Algaroth, knows a lot about it, and has become a warlock from an otherworldly patron whose race does not exist anymore. Ooh, mystery. Which is not a mystery anymore, considering that we literally just solved that mystery. You guys missed a lot. Like, the latest session that I've had as of creating this video is that they went to a temple where it's a temple of an ancient race, a race of people who later went extinct. There's none of them are around anymore. But for some weird reason, Nimble is able to read the language of their writing almost immaculately. He can read it perfectly without any errors. And what they just realized is that or I hope that they got this from the story. Basically, those ancient ones knew that they were going to die out. So what they did was they sacrificed their shell of their older selves in order to become gods. And they would later on become the gods of humans, elves, dwarves, and all that. So basically, the gods of the world aren't gods. They're just ancient beings who almost died because of a disease or illness. So they decided to use their technology to ascend them to an ethereal plane and become the universe. So now these beings control the universe. They wrap around the universe and wove it into things that they want it to be. But yeah, that's pretty much what we recently did. And right now, we've got flipping a monk called, what's he called? I think it's Limpton T. He's flipping doing Assassin's Creed leap of faith dives from the ceiling, and then just using flurry of blows. We have the alchemist who tweaked his gloves on his hands so that whenever they punch someone, it says aura. So now we just have the JoJo character of the group who just goes aura, 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 aura. And it's absolutely amazing. I love it. So yeah, that's basically Nimble. Right now, he's at a point where I think I gave him the ability to be able to call upon his Patreon because they helped him. Basically, what happened in the temple was that the Patreon that gave Nimble his powers, the the magic that ascends him and allows him to be with all the other gods, it failed, or at least it was incomplete, which meant that half of his soul went on, but the other half was trapped within his body, and that half soon rotted his body to the core, and he became a mummy. So half of him was still inside of him, and he couldn't fully ascend. The other half was inside Nimble. So Nimble, when he was younger, absorbed this power, and he became a warlock. He helped this Patreon ascend further, and the Patreon, finally achieving godhood, decided to give back half of the power that Nimble had from him. He decided to allow Nimble to keep it. And he can be summoned by Nimble and talked to in order to get... Basically, he's my hint system, so if the party doesn't know what to do or where to go, they can summon him, and through him, I will explain what's going on and what would be the next step forward. So it's my way of pushing them along to basically helping them with their quest. What is the quest? Well, the adventurers, Nimble, Minotaur, named Mino, who else? There's Digger, a robotic cleric who his past is that he used to dig graves for a kingdom in a far-off land, but when there weren't any more graves to dig, he continued on to seek adventure and find other bodies to bury. So basically, he's a gravekeeper, and he's a very good gravekeeper at that. He takes his job relatively seriously, and that's Digger. Next is Leroy Watson, the really bad at stealth detective, and gender detective at that. So I have a thing with Leroy. When we first started out, he kept making a thing where he wanted to check the gender of pretty much everything. So I decided to make a joke after that first session where I would say, I'm going to give you a new bonus action. As a bonus action, you can investigate the gender of any humanoid within 30 feet of you. He has abused that to hell and back, and I've had to literally tell him that a boat does not have a gender. He tried to find the boat's gender. That's how weird this got. So yeah, we have Leroy the detective, who has a note that specifically tells him what he's doing there, and that kind of started off the plot. So we have Nimble, Mino, Digger, Leroy Watson, and then there's Limpton T, who only just joined us in our latest session. He is a monk. He joined when our adventurers were on a boat, and he just kind of walked into them finding a bunch of water elementals and was just like... and then just helped fight them all, and then he joined their quest. But yeah, let's begin where their adventure started. So their adventure started off on a boat where a captain sailed them to the land of Algaroth. Some of them were all sailing to Algaroth, while some of them were welcoming people to Algaroth. Basically, this was my beginning. I like beginning my stories on a boat where they sail towards a land of mystery. And that's what I told them when I did this D&D game, I told them they can literally go anywhere they want. Everywhere has a story that they can do, and the land of Algaroth has many mysteries that are yet to be uncovered. So, uh, they obviously got excited, and they've gotten even more excited throughout the game, which I'm very happy for. Basically, skipping back to this, basically, um, basically the boat arrives at the port to, this basically, I named the port Port Lincoln because I couldn't come up with a better name. So basically, the boat arrives at Port Lincoln to let the adventurers off. They get greeted by a lady who says that this is a very dangerous land, and for your first adventure, we suggest pairing you up in teams of 4. Which, that's where our first team was formed and first meet each other. They were forced to be together until they get to the next kingdom. The first kingdom that they decided to go to was the Kingdom of Freedom, of which when they finally reached the Kingdom of Freedom, no one's there. Apart from one person who held on to their horses, there was no one there. And then they found a note on a door saying that there's a public execution going on. They go to check out the execution and find a lady charged with petty theft, and the sentence is death. One of them went into stealth and tried to shoot the leader, whose name is Furlon. So basically, he's in charge of the kingdom. The others, Nimble specifically, used a spell called Dimension Door in order to teleport to the lady and teleport back into the crowd. No one said a thing. And basically they just kind of snuck out of the kingdom, basically. But they tried to shoot at a wizard near... They tried to shoot at Furlon, but a wizard named Telif stopped the arrow and sent it in the opposite direction. So those are pretty much the two antagonists, which I have a lot of plans for. Next, they immediately left, and they talked to the lady. They left the kingdom, and on the way to somewhere else, they talked to the lady, and she said that she never stole anything, and in fact, she's Furlon's most trusted maid. So she doesn't know why he would do this. She tells them that he has a new power, one that was given to him by the wizard that was next to him on top of that balcony. And that wizard gains his powers from the fiends of the underworld, which are an otherworldly sort of souls of the damned, if you will. I have a lot of plans for them, but I'm waiting to explain it to them. So I'm going to explain to you what they know so that you guys can be as baffled as they are at the time. Because they know a lot about this world, but I haven't even scratched half the surface of what I've prepared for them. Like, and I'm still adding stuff in. This is like early access to this world. But yeah. So she says that Telif it's kind of like a warlock situation where Furlon is getting his powers from Telif, who is his patron, and his patron is getting powers from another patron who's the Fiends of the Damned. So it's like a warlock gaining power from another warlock who's gaining power from a patron. And Telif, like, you can sense that Furlon has the same power as Telif, but Nimble can like, I gave Nimble another ability at the very beginning of the game where he can sense magic. So it allows him to, this is basically his way, my way of telling them if Furlon or if Telif is near. Because basically what happens is that whenever they go on an adventure, there's always the adventure of what the kingdom or what the person wants you to do, but then there's Telif and Furlon, who are just moving in between them. Like, they'll go into a temple, they will solve the temple's puzzles and find its treasure. But then out of nowhere, as they're leaving, Ferlin will just walk across a corridor holding a priceless artifact. And then when they go to chase after him, he just disappears. So these two beings are just walking around the place doing stuff, and they know that they're doing something, which I've already told them what they're doing, but I'll get to that in a second. But, like, basically it's a mysterious thing. Like, I want this to happen. Basically, the maid says that Ferlin is trying to get control of all the kingdoms. He's trying to control them all, and he's trying to become the Kingdom Master, a title for one of the most prestigious, like, kings known to man, who managed to control all the kingdoms, and basically an everlasting land of peace. Time of peace was born. But then he died, and the kingdom separated into separate quadrants, and now Ferlin is trying to do it again with the help of Tealif. Tealif, I'm basically telling you what she said. Tealif has promised the fiends of the underworld that the land will be theirs. Like, it will be theirs to control and theirs to manipulate, and basically all the souls in the land of Algaroth will be theirs to torment and demand and all that sort of stuff. So they decided to go to Arius, the Kingdom of Freedom, known for not having a king. Now, I just want to point this out before people get angry at me for what I'm about to describe and say I'm ripping off Genshin Impact. I'm going to tell you right now, I came up with this 2 weeks before Genshin Impact had its massive blow-up. I came up with this kingdom, Arius, before Genshin Impact even made its first recall or first trailer. So this is completely original within me. I'm not ripping off Genshin Impact. It's more so just great minds think alike. So Arius is basically the kingdom of Mondstadt, where the people rule over the kingdom, and that there used to be a tyrant ruler, but after his death or assassination, they decided that the kingdom should be ruled by its people more so than by one specific person. And it's later become one of the best kingdoms in the land. Everyone wants to live here. They want to live in Algaroth, in Arius. However, it's also the weakest of the kingdoms, for it doesn't have a suitable army. Basically, everybody wants to control Arius because everyone wants to live there, but Arius is specifically trying its best to not let there be a ruler. But anyway, they go to Arius and they give the maid a home to live in. They go towards the kingdom to try and find stuff out. And they go to the library, basically, to find a bunch of books and all that. Nimble finds a book that apparently only he can read. So he's the only one that can read this book. Everyone else, when they try to read it, they just see a bunch of symbols that no one can understand. Even with a warlock's ability to read all languages, it still doesn't know what it is. But Nimble reads it out to them, which it tells of a temple temple of an ancient race of people that have long gone extinct, and that have a plan to save themselves from death. Anyway, before they leave the library, they find the librarian who opens the secret passageway and goes down into what is the dungeon. Or, I said dungeon at the time, but it's not. So they follow her. They travel for a while, but some of them went outside. So, oh yeah, there's another person, Fang Pru. He's basically a warrior, so that's one of the players. Sorry, I'm very bad. Anyway, so Basically, Fang Pru and Mino were outside fighting because as as Leroy and Nimble were walking into the dungeon, uh, all of a sudden they heard a massive bang outside, which was T-Lif summoning meteors and raising undead soldiers to sort of distract the kingdom at the time. So basically, he raised the undead and they just started attacking random civilians. He didn't care who, they just needed to cause a distraction. And the meteors were destroying buildings of the town. Mino lives in areas, and Leroy did as well. So they're kind of just watching as all of this happens and just watching their whole entire kingdom home just be destroyed by meteors. They fought a couple of zombies at the entrance, and then T-Lif walked up the stairs and in front of them. That was when they first met T-Lif, and he basically said roughly that they have a plan, and that their plan was to do something evil. That's basically what happened. I don't remember what exactly I said, but I knew I kept it a mystery. Only I know what their true, like, plan in motion is, and the group has a basic idea of what they are trying to do, but a lot of it they're getting wrong. Like my team think that they're just trying to get all of the uh, artifacts together, which I will explain what the artifacts are. They're just trying to get all the artifacts together just to overwhelm all the kingdoms, but that's not what they're trying to do. I will explain it later on if they actually do not get the hint, but don't worry about it. That's for them to understand and for you to enjoy them working out. Anyway, T-Lif then disappears, and Nimble then senses him in the dungeon. After defeating the zombies, they catch Mino and Fang Pru catches up to Nimble and Leroy, and they enter the room that has a harp, a sort of like a harp, basically that thing that you just lyre, whatever it is. And they see a lyre in the middle of the thing, in the middle of the room, affixed to a pillar with water around it. T-Lif is standing there, grabbing the harp, and the librarian is on her knees, sort of just blankly staring at the wall. They try to stop him. He gets incredibly angry, smashes his stuff on the ground, and they get a brief taste of what it feels like to be in the with the fiends of the underworld in their realm. And what I described was that shakes them to their very core. Then he disappears, and the hop is gone. The adventurers, all of those who stepped into the water, I said that all those who took damage, when they step into the water, the pillar glows and their damage is restored with 5 hit points. All those who didn't take any damage don't gain anything. After investigating the room, they find a treasure and a bunch of alchemy potions. They also find a book, which I'm writing up at this current moment, that tells the alchemists of potions that they can make, like potions that allow them to turn into animals and all that sort of stuff. Basically, Leroy has a potion that can turn him into... He doesn't know what it will turn him into, but he knows that it's a potion of transformation and will turn him into something. I know what he's going to turn into, and I'm massively excited for when he drinks it, but what I'm hoping for is that he saves the potion for a boss that might be too difficult for the party to defeat. Which, if it keeps going at the way it is going, that's going to be no boss, but whatever. Basically, they look around for stuff, they find a bunch of things, and then they leave. They leave the Kingdom of Arius and continue to go on an adventure towards the Kingdom of Waterloo. However, there are 2 problems with the Kingdom of Waterloo. First of all, they need to get a boat in order to travel to the Kingdom of Waterloo because it's surrounded by sea. And second of all, the Kingdom of Waterloo is not affixed to the ground. It's not an island. It's not anything like that. It's literally an island made of metal. It's literally a sailing city. It's a city that's literally sailing on the water, so it never stays in one place at any time. In the morning, it could be on the east side of the island. In the afternoon, it could be on the west side of the island. What it does is it circles around the land of Algaroth. So basically, how they solved the first problem, which is the boat, they met a pirate called Blackbeard. Yes, I implemented Blackbeard into the game. Basically, they were meant to pay him money, like 50 gold in order to get a ship because he was in debt. But they decided to go into the tavern and challenge the person to a game of poker. Leroy, being a detective, he didn't beat him in poker, but he was able to show everybody in the tavern how he manages to cheat. Everyone knew he was cheating, they just couldn't define how, so they couldn't punish him. Now that they knew, basically they got into a massive fight while the group left, and Blackbeard just gave them the ship because, hooray, I'm not in debt anymore. Yay! By the way, it's not Blackbeard's ship, it's just one of his crewmates' ship. Blackbeard has a much bigger ship, and I'm kind of saving that in my back pocket for them later. Don't tell anybody. Anyway, so now they have a ship, and they continue sailing. They run into a pirate ship that is trying to sink them. The only problem is, my group is a bunch of bullies, and the cleric, Mino, kind of just, after a battle which took about 3 turns, he kind of just raised his hands and then caused a whirlpool below them, which they failed a dexterity saving throw and kind of just sank to the bottom of the ocean. They didn't even fire a single cannonball at them apart from the first one. So, yep. Oh yeah, I came up with the boat rules myself, and if anybody's angry with the boat rules, you can at me at Twitter or something, or put it in the comments, I don't care. This is my world, and I can come up with the rules all I want. Anyway, they continue with the boat sailing to the Kingdom of Waterloo, which the second problem arose, where they didn't know where the Kingdom of Waterloo was, but there was another boat that they followed, and it went directly to the Kingdom of Waterloo. The trick here was that it was a shipment boat, so it was getting supplies to the Kingdom of Waterloo. So the shipment boat has a specific, compass that, because the Kingdom of Waterloo has its own magnitude, it always points towards the Kingdom of Waterloo no matter where it was. If you think of One Piece, how once they get to the Grand Line, each island has its own magnitude, some of those compasses only point towards one island, and others, you stay on an island for a certain amount of time, and then it points to the next island. This was the one that points to one specific island, except it's not an island, it just has a magnifying field that makes a compass point towards it. So, that's how they got there. When they got there, they hoisted anchor, and a pillar basically stopped the boat from moving, because it would stay in one place while the island would move. They basically took a long rest, and then went to the Queen, who Leroy told her about what's been going on with Ferlin and what his plan is. She basically decided to help, and basically what they found out was that the artifact that they're looking for is in the Kingdom of Atlantis. Which, if anybody doesn't know what the Kingdom of Atlantis is, first of all, get out of the rock that you're hiding under, and second of all, basically, it's a city of people who were so incredibly smart that their smartness basically sunk their kingdom into the bottom of the sea. So, a bunch of smart people was too big-brained to go down, and they sunk. And basically what I said was that the Atlanteans that lived there, they basically turned into mermaids and sirens and basically creatures of the sea. Anyway, the Queen got the alchemist, who will be a character that I'm creating later. Like I'm making a character and I decide to say, you know what, I'm going to implement him in it, and then I just chucked my character in there. And he basically gave them potions that allowed them to breathe underwater until they leave the water. So basically, once they get in the water, they'll grow gills, and then when they leave the water, the gills will go away and won't be retainable anymore. So basically, they drank the potion, jumped into the water, and whoop-de-doo-da-day, down to the ocean below we go! Once they got to the bottom of the ocean, they kind of just fell. They kind of just fell and landed on the ground because there was a bubble shield holding all the water out. They go inside the temple that they find there. So basically, I said that there was a massive place, but the Kingdom of Atlantis is a massive place, but there is basically a massive basically if you think like the Minecraft structures that you see under the water, it's like those, like this green sort of algae block, like pillars and all that. They go inside the temple that was right next to them, and once they get into the temple, Nimble begins to feel a very small portion of Tealif's power. As if when they saw him at Arius, in the dungeon, he felt a massive amount of power from Tealif. However, this Tealif has a very small amount of power. Like, it's not as much as that other time that he felt Tealif's power. And when they finally got to the center of the temple, they find a throne with a trident hovering over it, which is the artifact that they're supposed to get. And sitting on that throne is Ferlin himself. He didn't see them when they were at the Kingdom of Freedom, so when he sees them, he realizes who they are immediately, and gets incredibly angry, so now he knows that these guys are his enemy. He grabs the trident, and as he's going to go away, Nimble uses Dimension Door to kind of teleport towards him to try and grab the trident. But as he did that, a hand grabs him and holds him up into the air, and that is Queen Atlantia, who is going to be the boss of that section. So basically, she teamed up with Ferlin because he promised something that others did not promise her, which I'm going to keep that secret because they never figured that out. And basically, he raised the trident into the sky, started laughing, and teleported away. Then starts a boss fight with Atlantia, which lasted 2 turns, because basically the 2 potions that Leroy found at Arius was a transformation potion which transforms him into, and the other thing I found was a potion that, upon contact with anything, explodes. So, what they did was, after 1 turn where she moved towards them because her speed, how many feet she could move was too small. She wasn't close to anybody, so I had to spend an entire move moving her towards somebody, and that was it. That was the end of her move. After that, Nimble got angry about her throwing him across the room, and he sent her to sleep because she failed a Constitution saving throw, and then Leroy grabbed her head and made her chug the explodable potion, which then they asked me what happens, and I said, I'm going to say only one thing: run. And I basically allowed them to make 2 movements to try and get as far away from that location as possible. And basically the only person who was hurt was Mino. In that whole entire confrontation, basically she exploded. She's dead. And I was incredibly sad because in that moment I was going to raise Atlantis. I was going to make them battle on a raising city that was trying to come out of the water. It was raising from the ground, from underwater, and going to the surface, and I was going to rest on the surface as they fought. But that didn't go to plan, and I'm just sad because probably one of my most epic moments in Atlantis will never be seen now, because she died in 2 turns. You know, I mean, it's not my fault. I gave them an item. I should have known what they were going to use it for, and it was very creative, and I'm very happy that they did it. The only problem is they keep flipping bullying my bosses. My bosses aren't challenging when they have abilities that allow them to skip moves and basically kill them in one shot. But anyway, after defeating the boss, which destroyed the temple that they were in and just killed 30 mermaids and mermen at the same time. So they didn't level up because that's not how my leveling system works. But they killed a lot of people. Anyway, they go back to the Kingdom of Waterloo and tell the Queen that she should probably go to the Arius, the Kingdom of Freedom, to talk about what they're going to do about Furlan. The Queen leaves and they get on a boat to continue their journey. After a bit of sailing to get to the port, all of a sudden Nimble can feel something like 3 things circling around the ship. But what scares him is that there's nothing magical about this. It feels incredibly natural, as if this was meant to happen. And all of a sudden, water elementals come out of the water, and they go to attack the party. After a bit of fighting, here comes Limpton T, who just kind of appears on a raft and then climbs onto their ship as he saw them fighting off in the distance. He just kind of appeared and just went, hey, and helped them fight the water elementals, which they did a lot of damage. There were a lot of natural 20s that day. There were a lot of natural 20s that day. Not so much by me. I got a few natural 20s, but not a lot. They got a lot of natural 20s. And that scared me. I mean, my dice are amazing. I get natural 20s more than anybody else, but they got a lot of natural 20s that day. But yeah, basically after fighting the water elementals, they explain the gist of what's going on to Limpton T, and they continue on their adventure. They decide to get a bunch of upgrades for the ship, which basically I allowed them to, like every, what did I say, 500 Silva, they could upgrade the ship's armor class. So it would upgrade by 1. So it was at 12 before, but every single time they spend 500 Silva, it goes up by 1. So eventually they spent a lot of their Silva and ended up getting a boat that literally has 20 armor class. So there's only one thing that I can do to actually scratch that boat. And that's with a boss that I came up with the same day as I came up with boat physics. Which is cool. I need a drink. But anyway, after getting the boat upgrades, they continue on their adventure and they decide to go to the temple that was in Nimble's book. When they get to the temple, Nimble's frog, who he has a frog companion, Nimble's frog all of a sudden runs in. Like, he's basically just darting inwards and Nimble's kind of chasing after his frog. Everyone else chases after him, apart from Limpton T, who decides to climb the temple from the outside because he can walk on walls. So basically he's just going up the wall and just goes to the top. When they all get, apart from Limpton T, when they all get to the center of the temple, they find a room with 5 crystals. 3 of them are black, 1 is red, and 1 is green. In the middle of all those crystals are is what can only be described as a coffin. What seems to be an old style coffin. Amongst the coffin, there's writing on the coffin, and along the walls, there's writing along the walls. All of which only Nimble can read. I won't tell you what they read because it basically doesn't matter. It basically says what they already knew. As Nimble read everything, the coffin begins to move. And what comes out of the coffin is a mummy of a creature that no one's ever seen before. Whatever this thing was before it was mummified, it was never anything that they've ever seen before. Anyway, this is another boss fight that I decided to implement into the game. And basically what this guy was is that he was the creature that only had half of his soul left in him. Like, basically, the crystals ran out of power, which should never have happened, and half of his soul left him and went to Nimble. Basically, it stopped during the extraction phase, so halfway through extracting his soul and transferring it into the world around him, it stopped. The energy cut off, and there was no more energy in the thing. The rest of his energy stayed. The rest of the soul stayed within him, and that part of his soul didn't know where to go. It was like it didn't go to the afterlife. It basically searched for a creature worthy of his power, and that creature was Nimble when he was very, very young. And as Nimble has been growing up, this creature has been rotting in a coffin. And as they were finding him, basically they almost killed him, meaning Nimble would never have gone to talk to his Patreon, and would have just, that would have been it. It would have been just, he died. End of story. Nimble keeps half of the dude's soul, and the rest of his soul just goes wherever the rest of his soul goes. And I didn't even have a plan. I didn't even have a plan for where his soul would go. If anything, I probably would have chucked it in the souls of the damned. But yeah, luckily Nimble got the hint before they killed him, and he casted Eldrick's Blast, which basically into the crystals that didn't have a color, which were black. And basically what he needed to do was he just needed to give a little bit of magic into each of the crystals to start them, and then the power would grow. And when they all were lit up, all of a sudden the mummy went dead and then crumbled into dust. Nimble disappeared and got a chance to talk to his patron and get some of his questions answered, and then gained the ability to talk to his patron whenever he wants. So basically that's my hint system. And that's where our story has left off at this moment. So they're right now leaving the temple. That's where we decided to stop. And the next session, who knows? Maybe T-Lif and Ferlin will be there. Maybe they won't. It's fun being the DM. And this is pretty much my best Dungeons & Dragons group ever. I love these guys so damn much. And now that one of my good friends, who is he's absolutely amazing to have with me. Now that he's with us, I'm excited. I can't wait for our next one. But the problem is our series happens on Wednesdays, meaning that you have to wait an entire week before we start this campaign. I'm only just doing this now because I felt like it. But yeah, that's where our D&D story has started off. So tell me who you think who you like the most, like which character you like the most. Please tell me what you think of my story, because I like constructive criticism. And yeah, thank you for listening. Next D&D thing in this series will be us continuing our adventure and seeing where it will take us. So it will be them outside of the temple doing stuff. So yeah, thank you for watching and listening. I hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed this, please hit that like button. And if you want to see this D&D series because you want to see it immediately when it comes out, you're gonna want to hit that subscribe button, dear old buddy. It doesn't cost anything, because why would I charge you in order to get the content that you want right when you want it? Damn, for entertainment. But yeah, thanks again for watching. I did hope that you enjoy. Like, subscribe, leave a comment on what you think of the story, and I will see you in my next video. Bye-bye!